discover the charm of Williams Roadshow with me, your host Charlotte Larkin, as we dive into intriguing interviews with captivating individuals. Join me on a journey of engaging conversation, and in this episode, we meet a multi-talented artist who wears many hats: singer, poet, and leader of the band Tommy Hoe and the Barncats. In this exclusive interview, we'll delve into his creative process, inspirations, and the soulful journey behind his music and poetry. Get ready to be immersed in the world of Tommy Hoe and his captivating artistry.
I was in Colorado, Pueblo, Colorado. And I met this woman, Myra Kennedy, I believe her last name was Kennedy, I believe. Anyway, she had this big band with, I'd always been pretty much doing country, but I was probably 21 at the time. And she was playing this big show. But growing up, I'd listened to the 78 records and whatever of Glenn Miller, and Tommy Dorsey, and Artie Shaw, and all these Sinatra, and all these people, you know, and Tony Bennett, and I sing their music along with them and listen to it. And I always liked that big band sound, the horns and the groove and everything. And she had a band like that. Well, actually, come to find out, every time Jack Benny came down through, she was big in the musicians union. She played keyboard, piano. She's a pianist. She played a lot of stuff, but for Jack Benny shows. And I was getting up and taking gals out and dancing. I could jitterbug and do all of that. Good dancer. I love to dance. But so they took a break, and she came over to me and said, "You can dance." And I said, "I love to dance." I said, "I love to sing too." She said, "You can sing?" And I said, "Yeah." And they had somebody up there singing, but he wasn't that good. And she says, "Well, you want to get up and do a few songs?" I said, "I'd love to." By then I didn't have, I was been in front of people and everything, so it wasn't a big deal. So I got up with her, and it turned into a wonderful thing. When it turned into mayhem, I mean, people were going crazy when I was singing and clapping and going on and on and on. I'd never had that happen like that, really. And it just fueled me. You know how you feed off of the crowd, the energy, when you get into a good show. I mean, I've had shows since, that are good, a lot of them, where the crowd is into it and you feed, and it turns into a feeding frenzy. Yeah, it really turns, everything's in a groove. It's like you're in another world. And especially with the music, if you have music in your blood, as a musician, once you hit that peak in the emotions and the music and everything, it's like just flowing through you, and that's what happened there. And so, and I was with a knockout chick at the time. She wasn't there when I was doing this thing. I mean, she was one of these gorgeous gals that turned every head in the bar when you went in, and I had to fight the guys off, basically, to get away from her. She was like an Elizabeth Taylor type of looking gal, and just get into it, but she was jealous of me. She was okay for her to be kind of, showing her booty, but not for me to be. So she was worried about this Myra, is what it was. But anyway, I did several shows with Myra, and then in order to keep the peace. In fact, I got my first pair of good Tony Lama cowboy boots out of check, because they were expensive, that Myra gave to me for. And she was going to take me to places. She had plans. But the gallows, I thought she had different plans. She might have had different plans. I don't know. She's a little older than me, but she was an attractive woman. But what a great musician, and I'll never forget her for that, you know, because that was the first time I ever felt, you know, the fire get higher in the music. You know, it was fueling and fueling. It turned into a raging inferno in that building and it was a good sized concert. I remember my family talking about up in Cripple Creek, Victor, up in that country. There was an old guy, he came around, he was called the rag picker. And what he'd do, he's kind of like a junk man, but he'd come around and pick up bones, bottles, and rags or whatever, you know. But I remember my mother telling me that she was scared of this guy. So I wrote a poem about the rag picker. So when I was a young'un, my mama used to say, the rag picker's coming. And then I'd hear him say, any rags, any bones, any bottles today? Well, he was a funny old man, and he scared me too with his dirty hair and his ragged shoes. Then my brother took me on a walk one day and said, the rag picker's coming, and left me to stay. Well, I stood and cried, filled with fear. And then a kind voice said, what's wrong, dear? He says, I'm the rag picker. Ben is my name. This is my horse, Calamity Jane. Annie's my name, I said with a smile. I live down the road about 1/2 a mile. He says, if you're tired, I can give you a ride. So I boosted myself to the passenger side. He took me home and said, say, by the way, any rags, any bones, any bottles today? So anyway, that was my poem. And the lady said, you've got a way to write. You know, I was 15 years old. And I didn't know whether she was going to like it or not, because the other guy talked about azure skies and stuff like this. I thought, you know, but she loved it. And then I continued writing, you know, poetry.
How did growing up during the Vietnam era affect you as an artist?
I wasn't out demonstrating and doing all of that, but I wasn't for the Vietnam War, and I was, you know, thinking about it one evening, and I wrote this poem here. Trying to seek out reality in a world that's searching for fantasies through a spyglass. Stumble we will till our cups are all filled. The darkness of night is blocked by the light of illusion, or is it confusion? Life can go on from evening till dawn, but one day we're here and the next may be gone. There's nowhere to run, for we can't touch the sun, and a built-in companion will always be there to remind us. As we walk with a frown through the sunlighted town, we find eyes that are begging for vision, but the air is polluted, a life constituted by tyrants who make the decisions. And that was a little ode to what I was seeing going on during the 60s.
Tell me about your new CD.
I made a few here and there over the years, but not anything compared to this one here, really. I mean, I'm proud of the way this one turned out. I've been in so many different studios, you know, the glass and the Persian rugs on the floors and all that kind of looking thing, and done these. But this was a great little studio down in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, and small things like a living room, really, and comfortable, and refrigerator with wine and beer in it, and everybody's laid back and comfortable. The musicians all good, and every song on here, except for 2 of them, were done in one take. There's 2 of them on there I had to do a second time because I forgot the word. Words. I hadn't sung them in so long.
I'm going to ask Tommy Hoe to end our show with another of his poems.
Devil's Playground, that's from a poem I wrote of a ballad years ago up in West Yellowstone, Montana. On a cold wintry night as I was cooking myself, actually making flour tortillas for some burritos. I was hand making flour tortillas for these burritos I was making. This little shack I was living in. And for some reason, that ballad, The Devil's Playground, came to my head, and I just sat down and wrote it all that one time. I didn't change it. That was it. That happens a lot. As I topped the hill and I gazed below in my quest for the Yellowstone, the air grew foul and filled with a fog that crept from the devil's hole. The ground belched out a gurgling sound from deep in the bowels of hell. My mind grew dim as the clouds moved in, and I felt I was under a spell. I thought of the wrongs I'd done in my life, and I wondered if this was the end. I heard the howl roll through the steam as the trees seemed to sway in a bend. A fountain of water burst out of a crack and lurched at the stars overhead. Then in a moment it fell back to earth like a lost soul whose future is dead. Well, the gurgling subsided, the sweat left my brow as the breeze cut its way through the night. The air slowly cleared, the moon capped the peaks. In the distance I saw a faint light. It must be a trapper, I thought to myself. Company's nice when you're camped. So I picked up my feet and started to move over ground that was spongy and damp. It was mostly an hour I walked across the land that still trembled from depths deep within. The fire that I found seemed to harbor no life. Yet a low voice said, "Welcome, my friend." I then saw his eyes, mostly yellow and red. His feet like the hooves of a goat. Claws on his hands like I'd never seen. His nostrils were heavy with smoke. He spoke once again with the most ghastly grin and said, "This is my playground, you know. And if you think that you found a place here with me, I'm not saying that you have to go." Well, they cackled and howled as they crawled in a hole and sent out a funnel of fire. And I seldom mentioned this story to few, for they usually have called me a liar. But the dawn showed the sun many years after that, and I often wondered myself if the devil thought someday I'd meet him again, when my soul like the fountain played out. Here I am on the fringes of Yellowstone Park when I wrote that. It just kind of, for some reason, came to me, and I have no reason. I don't know why.
I would like to thank Tommy Hoe for letting us interview him for this series we're working on for local musicians from Central New York. And everyone from Williams Road Productions is very happy to have Tom here. I got a CD from him. He signed it. This guy is wonderful, and he's an amazing talent. So, and I love that hat. So, Tommy, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Brad, for having me.
Yeah,
I feel honored
really
to be
good.
part of your project.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
All the best.
Excellent. So,
right.
adios, right? He knows adios better than anyone.
Adios, muchachos y compañeros. Se la vista la mañana.
Ah, beautiful. Peace, man. Love you, buddy. Thank you.
Studio services provided by Vecteezy.com. Your clicks can make a difference. Stick around to find out how you can easily contribute before you go. It's all about spreading positivity and making an impact. I'm Charlotte Larkin, and you've been watching Williams Roadshow. Until next time, we'll give you someone to talk about.
We could dance all night long.